All right, real quick.
Look, there's like 5 people that understand the reference that's being made there, but I had to
So
do
we
it.
brought it up at the top of the show, and I said we're going to kick this into the money, and I almost went out of the money into the next thing without bringing it up. Yeah, so we saw the Snow White trailer. Now, people have to understand something. When they conceptualized Snow White, the Snow White movie, Rachel Ziegler was very much out front and public about this is going to be essentially Lord of the Rings for chicks. This is Snow White leading a charge.
Snow White will give us the socialist utopia is the gist of this.
Yeah,
We tried this with that horrible Kristen Stewart adaptation.
well, I was actually thinking about
At least
the
that,
Alice.
I'll at least give that one 2 things in its favor.
Mm-hmm.
Charlize Theron.
Forgot. Okay, 3.
But she's a good villain.
She's a tremendous villain, but for some reason we've now made 3 of these Snow White adaptations in a row where the person playing Snow White is clearly not as attractive as the person playing the evil queen.
I wasn't gonna even bring that up. Trying to convince me that Gal Gadot isn't the fairest in the land next to Rachel Ziegler is you. What wait? What? Monica Bellucci is also not a pretty woman. What are we doing here in Hollywood?
I got eyes, man, and I'm not that far induced into propaganda. But point being about the Snow White and the Huntsman, it actually leans into the grittier aesthetic in a way that I appreciate. If you're gonna do a play on this, play with it, and doing it a little bit more that direction I thought was a decent way. And Chris Hemsworth is a very charming lead.
Can we just shoot this right in the heart and say stop shaming women for liking romance, because that's what this movie is.
Yeah.
And I'm getting tired of it. Let me speak for the women here.
I'm not a rom-com fan, so please go ahead.
Look, the mistake that Hollywood's made for the past decade has been basically if we feed the women men shit, but we put women in the men's role, they'll come like droves. And it's like, that isn't. Robert and I say this all the time. Men and women are different. We like different stuff. Sometimes we like the same stuff, but it's because women like the men's stuff and men like the women's stuff. Not that they want to see the reverse. They don't want to see men in the women's stuff they like, and they don't want to see women in the men's stuff they like. And that's a very broad generalization. But the reason why everyone liked Wonder Woman was because Wonder Woman was a badass character it was well represented from the comics. The reason why we liked Scarlett Johansson as the Black Widow was because, again, she was well represented from the comics, and what she did alongside the men looked cool. Nobody was offended by any of this. When you start doing things like, what's her face? I can't remember the actress's name. Banks. Elizabeth Banks is like Charlie's Angels. Yeah. And you're like, what if we have women doing the stuff that men, that the men typically like, but we have women doing, and it's like, no. Not only do women not like that, but men don't like it either. So now you got nobody. The thing with Snow White is they're like, okay, well, women like fantasy stuff. Women like Lord of the Rings. Well, what if we gave them a woman's version of Lord of the Rings, and we'll take Snow White and we'll make her Aragorn? Okay, again, nobody likes this. The men don't like it because that's not what they like, and the women don't like it because they like what the men like.
We already had a kick-ass version of Snow White as a leader, and it was actually in the Once Upon a Time series. They did Snow White really well in that. I stand by it. Now, I will also admit that I dropped out of that series after they decided to bring in Elsa and Cruella, because I have my
You're also
limits.
talking about it like a prime time soapy drama. It's a different audience. It's a different medium. It's a different distribution.
And it's Disney. It's an ABC thing. So technically,
by distribution, I mean it's on TV, not in theaters.
I know, but it's Disney property, so it's still technically their Snow White.
Okay. The point is, the problem with when Rachel Zegler's out there, like, this isn't going to be the old romantic, Snow White falls in love with the prince and he solves all of her problems.
Which is publicly saying we could probably cut out this other actor who was in the movie, just leave him on the cutting room floor.
How about you stop pissing on everyone's shoes that actually like Snow White? If there's one thing I've noticed with women is most women. They absolutely like the idea for whatever the reasons are. And I'm not going to get into it now. It'll take me another hour to start breaking all this shit down. But they actually like the idea of a man comes into their world, gives him a kiss, and takes him away, and and they live romantically ever after. Well, that's not a bad thing. It's a fantasy.
It's a fairy tale.
It's it's women. It's women's romance fantasy. It's the same thing as boys' power fantasy. And people like Rachel Ziegler, who worked on the stupid Snow White movie, and have done and the zillion other projects out there that have all failed, and blown up on the launch pad, keep trying to shame women for being women. And it sucks and it's stupid and it's the reason why you're losing money. This fucking Snow White movie, aside from the fact that it looks terrible.
Those
again,
dwarves.
Those,
They look. It's so
Roger Rabbit looked more real.
I try not to insult the CGI in trailers because we've had a lot of times where the CGI in the trailer look terrible.
Actually had that thought, like, maybe
and it's like
better.
Maybe it's not totally finished.
Right.
I mean, remember when Infinity War, the first trailer dropped, and everyone thought Thanos looked like shit?
Yeah.
So it's like I don't like making fun of, but I saw and I'm not even thinking about the dwarves. I'm thinking about the animals, the cute little enchanted animals. I'm like, oh my God.
There's a couple of scenes where
the animals in F.A.O. Schwartz look more realistic than this.
There's a couple of scenes where she's supposed to be interacting with them physically. It just looks bad. Like it's not lined up. There's no weight to anything that's going on there. The animals are bad. It's very obvious that all those photos that leaked early of, they're not really going to be dwarves. There's going to be they're going to be live actors, and it's going to be a bunch of different nature spirits. That was the plan. That was absolutely the plan. Because if it was always supposed to be the dwarves, they would not look this bad. Right. Not at this point.
No, they absolutely changed gears when, the critical drinker wing of the internet saw those photos and went fucking crazy.
Hang on. If it had only been the niche that lost their minds over that, they probably wouldn't have. The fact that those got publicized and the normies went, what the
Okay. I have no qualms if they had just said, this is a new Snow White. It's not a remake of the classic. They got rid of the short hair, the blue and yellow dress and everything. No tiebacks to it. And it's like she does meet something different than dwarves. She meets forest spirits, and they do. It's like if you just completely, machete those ties, I think they could have had something.
Yeah.
But they were like, nope, we want it to be a remake, and it's like you are holding on too much, and it's like you can't have your cake and eat it too. You cannot hold on to the original while trying to change this much. You're pissing off the loyalists and the ones who don't like or who don't want to sit through the original. You're not going to make anyone happy.
I want to say this. Jason Teasley in our group chat likes to do things like, well, if we're going to do this, let's cast Ben Stiller as Black Panther. Ben Stiller is white. And and it's like, Jason, stop.
Well,
hang on. I'm going somewhere with this.
No, I'm taking issue with you saying Ben Stiller's white, but
it's the weirdest thing you've ever said in the entire time I've known.
Ben Stiller's practically clear.
Isn't he Jewish?
Yes, very Jewish.
Hang on.
Thinking for yourself here.
I'm making a point. Jewish is a separate ethnicity.
Alan Tudyk as Black Panther. Are you happy now, asshole?
I don't know. Look, the joke stands. The fact that you're like, but he's really white. Like, well.
Anywho.
I want to watch a movie with Alan Tudyk as Black Panther.
Oh my God.
Absolutely. That would do better than Black Panther 2.
Anyway. So you want to make a black.
You could get Sheamus as his silent enforcer. He could do what Kamaru Usman did.
I fucking hate you both.
Then we succeeded at our jobs for the night.
Anyway, you can make a black Little Mermaid. I don't really care. Make a fucking Chinese Little Mermaid. I don't really give a shit. There's a lot of characters you can play around with the ethnicity. You can race swap. You can gender swap. You can sex swap as far as gay or straight or whatever. I don't really care. I've long ago given up. If you want to do alternate versions of characters, that's fine. Some of them, though, because of the nature of the character, the fucking name, for example, you really can't. It's hard to do anything but African-American Black Panther, for example. By the same token, Snow White don't work when you look Mediterranean, or Hispanic. And God bless her, Rachel Ziegler's a pretty gal. I mean, I certainly wouldn't kick her out of the bed for eating crackers. But, she's
Oh, jeez, you and I had the same reaction to that statement, Alexis.
We both were like, yeah.
all right. I'd sleep with her. I don't know about these two asexual twins, but but Rachel Ziegler is a tanned woman. I mean, Jesus Christ, she looks very ethnic. It's fine. Very obviously.
They've turned whatever that kingdom is into downtown LA because you've got Rachel Zegler, who I think is actually Puerto Rican
You
by
can't
descent.
call her fucking Snow White. Is my point.
You've got Gal Gadot, who's Israeli, and the Huntsman is a black guy.
My point is,
I can't wait for her to talk to the Chinese guy that's sweeping up the
name is
like.
Snow
This is
White.
what we're doing.
The character's name is Snow White, not because she does cocaine, but because
No, but I'd love to live in the universe where that exists.
I would watch that movie, and then she can be fucking Omar from The Wire for all I care. But
Marking on the bingo cards.
The nickname is Snow White because she brings the cocaine.
you know, if it's Snow White, it's Al Pacino from Scarface, sure. But but you can't be like her skin was as white as porcelain, and she looks like fucking Rachel Ziegler. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, why are we doing this? And like no thought was given to this. It's like, Rachel Ziegler's an it girl. She's pretty. We'll throw her in this, and we'll make this a modern feminist tale, and all the women will come out and watch this. Meanwhile, they're all like, Wicked. No, Wicked
Yeah.
is what we like. I don't know what you think this is, but Wicked is what we like. Anyway, Snow White and Captain America 4. Put them out together one night and then run away from this as fast as possible.
Seriously, Captain America, Captain America, the Banana Republic. Okay, that's what we're going to call this thing from now on. Because I know what a Banana Republic is. It's not a clothing store, but that's how much they've spent on this thing. They could have, in fact, established peace in Guatemala. They could have subsidized a small South American country for what they've spent on this movie with Red Hulk.
I threw a lot out. It looks like shit, by the way. I threw a lot out there about Snow White and women audiences, and don't cast porcelain skin Snow White as fucking, a Mexican. But anything else you want to add,
Girl, they
Robert?
got to recast in the Rita Moreno role in West Side Story.
You want to add anything else, Robert, or are we good to move on?
There's a reason Disney has not released that trailer onto YouTube. They are terrified of what will happen when that gets seen by everyone. And they should be. It looks like ass.
I was going to say, we are about to have a world record thumbs down on YouTube.
This might surpass Ghostbusters Answer the Call. And I thought that was a record that would stand for a really long time.
I don't think they're in the David Zaslav thing where they've now cut so many things the IRS is investigating them for fraud. But I do think Disney should just cut bait with both Snow White and Captain America 4. Just take your losses, write them down, say, better luck next time. But both movies are now costing a fortune, and they can't get it right. And I don't think they're saving either one of them. Not to mention the fact that I don't think anyone is going to draw an audience. I don't think anyone gives a fuck about Captain America 4. I don't think anyone gives a fuck about the Snow White movie.
The fact that they're reshooting Captain Falcon for the fourth time.
Mm-hmm.
And
you would think they would have learned their lesson with Indiana Jones and Just Kill Me Now.
Well, they can't seem to get it right. And the fact that it's being written by the same guy that wrote Falcon and Winter Soldier, and boy, does that show have a lot of writing problems. Like, that should tell you a giant chunk of what's wrong here.
Yeah. All right.
It doesn't help that you saddled poor Anthony Mackie with the baggage of turning into the next Captain America, which, I'm sorry, no. It's a terrible decision.
Well, folks, that's our discussion of Snow White and Captain America 4. Tune in next year where we
$500 million between those two at least. At least $500 million.
Just walk away, Disney. Be like the Joker, light it all on fire and walk away.
At least keep somebody. If you burned it, you could have at least kept someone warm.
Yeah, it was 40 degrees in Florida. You could have kept me warm today. All right, here we go.